Hello and welcome to the Wisconsin Drunken History Podcast. We are your hosts, Eric Sturgeon.
And I'm Russell Sorry.
This podcast is about all things Wisconsin, history, music, and culture.
While drinking a few brews.
Though we don't often use strong language, the jokes and the content is not intended for young audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Before we begin the episode, we have to give a huge shout out to the Dangits from Madison, Wisconsin, for providing us with great bluegrass intro you hear at the beginning of every episode. The song Razzle was written by Jamie Lampkins, but is performed on behalf of Tom Wasselchuk and the Dangits. If you have a chance, check these guys out at dang-its.com for upcoming shows, music, or on how to book them for weddings, parties, and etc. Thank you for listening.
All right, everyone, welcome back. This is another episode of Wisconsin Drunken History, your weekly dose of the Dairy State. I am Eric.
I am Russ.
We have a truly tasty beer review today. We have another edition of How Many Loco You Add. We have music from the Bluegrass Legends Chicken Wire Empire and a special guest interview. But our main story for today is the origins of the Milwaukee Brewers baseball.
Brew Crew.
Fear the beer, baby. So let's go ahead and start right off. There is an extensive tradition of baseball in Milwaukee. In fact, the Brewers' nickname can be traced all the way back to the 1880s, although none of those early teams, enjoyed any success or stability. Milwaukee had a number of teams in a number of different minor and major league clubs from 1870s all the way through the 1900s, with nicknames like Milwaukee West Ends, Milwaukee Grays, Milwaukee Cream Cities, Milwaukee Creams, Milwaukee Bears, which is the Negro National League, Milwaukee Chicks, which is the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League, and, of course, Milwaukee Brewers. The story really begins in 1901, when the American Association Milwaukee Brewers were founded. This came after the American League Brewers were moved to St. Louis and became the St. Louis Browns, which is actually the modern Orioles franchise. At the conclusion of the 1900 season, the American League removed itself from baseball's national agreement, which was the formal understanding between the National League and the minor leagues. So 2 months after this decision, the American League declared itself a competing major league. So the Brewers were one of only two Western League teams that didn't either completely fold or move, and the other one being the Detroit Tigers. But during the first season of the American League, the Brewers finished dead last with a record of 48-89. And they played their home games at Lloyd Street grounds between 16th and 18th Streets in Milwaukee. The modern story of the Brewers begins in 1953, when Milwaukee was desperately trying to entice owners and clubs to uproot their teams and make Milwaukee their new home. So we built Milwaukee County Stadium. And
We've all been there.
I was just going to say, and if you visited Milwaukee County Stadium, up until 2001, it was a family-friendly ballpark. It was your more traditional looking and feeling ballpark. I had only maybe attended, 5 or 6 games there, and I was really young. The last one was probably in the year 2000. I remember watching Jeremy Burnitz take a ball right over the park.
I remember, just a little side story. I remember going there for a Cubs game. And obviously, we hate the Cubs here. They're like not.
Amen.
Yeah. But what happened? The Brewers hit a home run. So then we had a couple guys, talking trash from the Chicago team. And all of a sudden, I was 10 years old, and I watched all these guys just go at it, like fist to fist. They had to have people come out and break up with how intense it got.
That's classic.
I know. It was just, just watching that, like from like a sideline perspective, just seeing all these fists flying, like Brew Crew fans dropping Cubs fans. It was just intense. I mean,
and if things were done properly today, we would still see that sort of athleticism in the fans.
Yeah.
So the current Brewers club, then a minor league farm team for the Boston Braves, were set to move into County Stadium when Lou Perini moved his Boston Braves into the new stadium and became the Milwaukee Braves. The Brewers moved to Toledo, Ohio, and became the Mud Hens. After the 1965 season, the Braves relocated to Atlanta, and a Braves minority owner named Bud Selig
Know that guy.
quickly turned his focus to returning Major League Baseball to Milwaukee. Now, Bud Selig, also former commissioner of the MLB as well. So you notice his name a lot for that, but for these next two things, little less known facts. So Selig was a car dealer and a Milwaukee area native. He grew up watching the minor league Brewers at the Borchert Field and was now attempting to continue the tradition of baseball in Milwaukee. In 1968, Selig contracted with Chicago White Sox owner Arthur Allen to host 9 games at Milwaukee County Stadium in an effort to demonstrate there was still support for big league baseball right here in Milwaukee. The experiment actually proved successful when in those 9 games drew 264,297 fans.
Wow.
In the remaining 72 home games that played in Chicago, the White Sox only drew 539,478 fans. So in those 9 games, the Milwaukee crowds roughly accounted for 1/3 of Sox games that season. Those fans accounted for 1/3.
Yeah, and think of the size of Milwaukee compared to Chicago.
Absolutely. Just
You know,
crazy different
right.
size. And even at that time, Chicago was way bigger.
Oh, yeah. for
Milwaukee
sure.
was like Elkhorn compared to that at that point.
Exactly.
And for those of you who don't know what Elkhorn is, that's where Russ and I come from. It's like southeast corner of Wisconsin, about, I don't know.
45 minutes from Milwaukee.
I was
maybe
just going to say
50 minutes.
about 50 minutes away from Milwaukee. So just crazy to imagine that in just 9 games we accounted for 1/3 of the fans for the Sox season. So Selig and Allen again agreed Milwaukee would host White Sox games for the 1969 season, even though those games in 1969 were slightly less attended than the previous season. It actually accounted for a greater percentage of the total attendance. So for anybody mathematically gifted out there, essentially, we had more games, so 11 versus 9, and some were less attended. What ended up happening was less people attended those games in Chicago. So even though we dropped slightly on the Milwaukee end in those 11 games, the 1969 season didn't see very much support in Chicago for their team. So we still covered 1/3 of the fans who went to Sox games in 1969.
That's nuts.
So to be, really frank, this experiment worked well. If there was ever a question that big league baseball could manage in Milwaukee, this proved it, perfectly. So Selig's experiments fared very well. Armed with this momentum, he attended the 1968 owners' meetings with high hopes. Unfortunately, the National League franchises were awarded to San Diego, which is the Padres, Montreal, which is the Expos, and American League franchises were awarded to Kansas City, now the Royals, and Seattle, the Pilots. Failing to gain a team in the expansion, Selig turned his attention to purchasing and relocating an existing team. And he started with a familiar face. He went right back to Arthur Allen with the Chicago White Sox. The sale was eventually vetoed, and Arthur Allen eventually settled on selling the team to his brother, John. So we did not get the Chicago White Sox franchise. The league eventually just vetoed that thing and said, nope, not happening. So we revisit the newly created Seattle Pilots expansion club in that American League. They struggled in many aspects. They finished dead last in the American League West, 33 games out of the first, an out-of-date stadium, poor attendance, pressure from the league to fix these issues and build new stadium. They were just really behind the 8 ball on all of this, and when you're a brand new club like that, if you don't have a huge financial backing, nothing's going to happen quickly. So Selig met in secrecy with Dewey Soriano, the owner of the Pilots Club, And Soriano agreed to sell to Selig for $10 million to $13 million, basically depending on the source that you hear. It's going to be somewhere between 10 and 13 mil. But the deal was far from over. Washington's two senators, Warren Magnuson and Henry Jackson, pushed Soriano to find a local buyer, so somebody more in the Seattle area. So then local theater chain owner Fred Dans came forward in October of 1969 with a $10 million deal, but it eventually fizzled when the Bank of California called in a $4 million startup loan that was given to Soriano. So basically, they had a deal for 10, and all of a sudden the bank that originally gave him the loan to start this thing off said, "Where's our $4 million?" So the deal just fizzled out, just didn't work. So in January of 1970, Westin Hotels owner Eddie Carlson put together a nonprofit group to buy the team. However, the owners rejected the idea. After a winter and spring full of court action, the Pilots reported for spring training under new manager Dave Bristol, unsure of where they would even play. The owners had given tentative approval to the Milwaukee group again, but the state of Washington got an injunction on March 17th to stop the entire deal. Soriano immediately filed for bankruptcy, a move intended to forestall any post-sale legal action. At the bankruptcy hearing a week later, Milks testified there wasn't enough money to pay the coaches, players, and staff. Had Milks been more than 10 days late in paying the players, they would have all become free agents and left Seattle without a team for the 1970 season. With this in mind, federal bankruptcy referee Sidney Volin declared the Pilots bankrupt on April 1st, 6 days before opening day. This clearing the way for them to move to Milwaukee. The team's equipment had been sitting in Provo, Utah, with the drivers awaiting word on whether to drive toward Seattle or drive towards Milwaukee.
Wow.
As they say, the rest is history. So in 1977, the Brewers organization made two very important hirings. Number one, Harry Dalton, and number two, George Bamberger. Immediately, these two were able to help lead the Brewers to 93-win season, a 26-game improvement from the previous season, and they finished just 6.5 games behind the first-place Yankees. Now remember, we're in the AL, not the NL at this time. So with homegrown talent like Robin Yount, Paul Molitor, and Gorman Thomas, Bambi's Bombers, as they were called, continued to improve. They added some cast-offs from other teams, and you might recognize some of these names as well. Cecil Cooper, Ben Ogilvy, and Mike Caldwell. In the 1979 season, the Brewers won 95 games and finished second in the AL East, just 7 games back from the Baltimore Orioles in first. So we're really close. We're always just a series or two behind that number one team. In 1980, we would see major changes. The Brewers skipper, George Bamberger, suffering a heart attack, they turned the team over to Buck Rogers. And a downward skid totally ensued. In the offseason before the 1982 season, the Brewers were actually favorites to win the AL East, but under Buck Rogers, they fell early in the season to a measly 23-24 record. So when you're potentially expected and projected to win, a 23-24 start is terrible.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, these Brewers should have been off to a start that looked, way closer to maybe like 8 or 9 losses is really what, the professionals were thinking.
Yeah.
So with an absolutely all-star cast of players that included Ted Simmons, Cecil Cooper, Jim Gantner, Paul Molitor, Robin Yount, Ben Ogilvy, Gorman Thomas, Pete Vukovich, Don Sutton, Moose Haas, Mike Caldwell, and Raleigh Fingers, a change at skipper had to be made. Enter Harvey Kuhn. And welcome Harvey's Wallbangers. This is the cast right here, fellas. This is what we lived for. The Brewers would finish first in the AL East with a record of 95-67, partly due to those 24 early losses that we could have cut down, but 95-67 was good enough to get us that first place call. And we would go on to face the St. Louis Cardinals in that year's World Series. Affectionately called the Sudway Series, wordplay for Subway Series, and parodying the two cities as homes of major breweries, Miller Brewing in Milwaukee and Anheuser-Busch in St. Louis. The Brewers would eventually, and might I add, sadly, fall to the Cards 4-3 in the series. So in our, big World Series, us being there for the first time, we lose 4-3. We kept it a game. Obviously, we pushed it to Game 7, but just crazy that we would go there with that star cast and end up losing. So that only tells you one thing. I mean, the Cards that year were great.
I always love the Brewers name, and obviously Chicago would have been the Brew City. Did you know that? But the Great Fire really struck Chicago back.
Really screwed them, yeah.
Yeah, so Milwaukee ended up becoming the Brew City because they were supplying the beer to Chicago, which had the fire, but people still wanted the beer.
Right.
So Milwaukee and Brewers, I mean, it's just a legend in itself.
Right. I mean, the story tells itself, which is amazing. So, unfortunately, we've struggled with the St. Louis Cardinals year after year after year. For some reason, those Cardinals never give up. They're always in the race. So, although the Brewers haven't been able to really capture the same success as they did in 1982, the loyal fans have enjoyed awesome years as of late, particularly our return to postseason action in 2008, the 2011 heartbreaker against the rival Cardinals once again, and of course, 2018's NLCS nail-biter against the Dodgers. We brought that thing to 7 games, and damn, it was... I mean, every minute of every single game was just sweat-inducing, just tear-jerking. 1 minute I'm crying and I'm just desperate. I've thrown everything out the window. I've given up hope. To the next minute, we crush a home run to tie the damn game, and we're back in it. Just insane. And at that time, I was living a mere 10 blocks away from Miller Park. I witnessed one time after a game this lady smash into the back end of a car sitting right in front of my apartment building. I sat up for 45 minutes watching them give her a roadside PBT and everything. It was amazing. And this was after one of the games. So it was absolutely phenomenal. So long as we can tailgate and we can gather at the league's best ballpark in the greatest baseball city, the loyal fans will continue to find joy in any little victory we can.
Yeah, I know. Recently we had a heartbreak. The Nationals game last year. I was watching it, and I was so amped up. I'm like, yes, the Brewers are getting in. They're going to make it this year. And we're just crushing them. And then there's Nationals fans crying in the stadium.
Yeah.
And I remember, the heartbreak when they ended up losing. Man, it hit me hard, honestly.
Last year was tough. I mean, we have the opportunity to make those playoffs, and then we as Milwaukee Brewers fans, we don't get to taste the playoffs as often as we want to. We always think we go into the season thinking, yeah, this is the crew, this is the team that's going to do it, and then you watch, 60-70% of the season just go by, and you're like, that didn't go as planned.
Yeah.
This is not what we projected. But then, you somehow you get to that last few series, and we start doing that mathematical countdown of, are we even close? Is there a way that we could maybe win the next, 8 of 10 and make it in, squeak in? I mean, we always do that. And although I love the crew and I love doing that, I really would love it if it was more like 2018, where we could just basically, just buy our ticket to the NLCS and somehow fight our way in,
Yeah, someday I know we'll make it, Obviously, I'm a Wisconsinite through and through, so there's no way I'd like any other baseball team. Even if they're the worst team in the league, honestly, I wouldn't switch it. Like if they were Detroit Lions of the football league, I would still like them because they're Wisconsin. Like even if they were the worst of the worst, which they aren't.
They're not, but there have been years though. And that's
yeah, for sure. And I got a little side story. Like I've always wondered, Bernie Brewer, he has the best job in probably any job you could ever ask for. He has his own little dugout, and all he has to do is really just slide down the slide when they hit a home run. So do you think like that guy's ripping fucking brewskis behind
Yeah, exactly. So I'm with you. I think, honestly, he's probably up there ripping brewskis, sucking down some hot dogs, and then every once in a while he hears the crack of the bat, and he hears the stadium go wild. Euchre is, it's up, out here, gone. And he is down the slide. And that's all he's got to do. He's got to just remember, hey, if you hear Euchre screaming about something going over the, get out of here, gone, then I got to slide down that slide. No matter how drunk I am, my ass is ripping down that slide like you wouldn't believe. And I wouldn't even, fail to even project that they've got some sort of, slick projectant on that slide to help them get down there faster. Sure. You remember the Christmas Vacation movie on that the saucer?
Oh yeah, he sprayed that
Chevy Chase with some the
experimental spray. Yep. Bernie has that on his anus.
He's got that on his anus.
No, I love Bernie. Like honestly, like I always talk about like someday I'd like to retire and just be a Walmart greeter. But if I could retire and be a Bernie Brewer.
Well, what about our former teacher, Mr. Meyer? He's been selling brews at Miller Park for 20 years. I mean, you go there, he's known as the Iceman. For those of you listening, the Iceman was our teacher in Elkhorn at the middle school. And this guy is just a legend at Miller Park. He basically walks around, says, ice cold beers, Iceman, woo! He Ric Flairs in the middle of everything.
That's pretty cool.
And people want to sit in his section.
That's awesome.
It's crazy. Side note, they made a limited edition bobblehead of the Iceman.
Mr. Meyer.
You can't, yes.
No
and you
way.
Can't find it.
Oh, that is amazing.
So part of the fans got the bottle of beer bobble, and then some of the fans got Mr. Meyer, Iceman, Kenneth Meyer.
No way.
I swear to you.
That is amazing.
I don't have it. I have probably close to 100 bobbleheads here in my basement. They are not Iceman, and that's the one I want.
Do you think, I know they have the bobblehead museum here in Milwaukee, which is it's officially now the largest bobblehead collection.
It is.
Do you think Mr. Meyer is in there? Because I really want to see this thing.
I 100% guarantee that there's the Kenneth Meyer Iceman bobblehead in that museum.
I might be making a trip soon. I got to see this.
My wife and I went to Cincinnati, and it was an off day, so the Reds weren't playing. But there's a geocache there, and for those of you that don't know, geocaching is just about the funnest thing you can do. I'm not supposed to talk about it because of muggles. But anyway, when you get into it, it's great. But there is a geocache in Cincinnati that allows you to walk around the ballpark, and you have to look at the different statues. You have to read the different statues that they have out front. And it'll lead you to the right thing, and you have to text that answer to the person that set the geocache in order to even get the recognition that you won or whatever. Not win, but you found it. So we're there, and at the time, the Cincinnati Reds have a huge museum right outside the ballpark. It's amazing. At the time, they weren't doing it, but a few years earlier in 2016, I was there with my friend Jake Stark, and the Cincinnati Reds Museum was doing also a bobblehead museum right when you walked in, and they probably had close to 10,000 bobbleheads, and they were all different. Every single one of them was different. They were from different teams. I saw a bunch of the ones that I have here in my collection. It was just absolutely fantastic, but it does not rival the Milwaukee Bobblehead Museum. So if you have a chance, that's a shout out right there. Check out the Milwaukee Bobblehead Museum. It is the largest. All right. We now have another Wisconsin music segment, and I'll be honest, I am very excited about this one. We are talking about Chicken Wire Empire. These guys are one of Wisconsin's premier bluegrass bands. We featured Horseshoes and Hand Grenades. We now have Chicken Wire Empire. These guys are phenomenal. If you haven't yet, check them out on Spotify, their Bandcamp, YouTube. Amazing stuff. They cover Wildflowers by Tom Petty. This stuff is just phenomenal music. I can't even believe that Jordan of the band got back to me. I'm really excited about this.
So, yeah, I know they've played at like the Blue Ox Music Festival, and many of you might not know about it, but it's a big bluegrass festival we hold here in Wisconsin, and always features really good bands, local bands. You know, people come from all over to check this place out. And I know, Eric, you've heard that they might be doing an event coming up here, a drive-in event.
Yeah, so it's called the DriveIn Tailgate Concert Series. This is round 2. This will be on Saturday, August 22nd, so next Saturday. And this, in particular, is in Hillsboro, Wisconsin. Go to their Facebook page. Go to Chicken Wire Empire's Facebook page and go to their tour dates section. This will take you right to their bands in town, or whatever that website is, to explain a little bit more about what it is and when you can see it. It's, I think, 5:00 is when their time is. I'm not sure if that's when they hit the stage or if that's when the whole event starts, but it is 100% phenomenal. I can't explain to you that there's about three bands that really got me into bluegrass. These guys are right up top. This is seeing Horseshoes and Hand Grenades was really cool on Live at King Street. And then that kind of sparked something to be like, you know what? This is a really cool style of music. And I really appreciate the musicianship and how quickly everybody's going. It's just every single instrument is like at its top speed. And you and I, old punkers, we love playing as fast as you possibly can, no matter if it doesn't make sense. That's punk. When you're talking about bluegrass and they're playing as fast as they possibly can, theirs all makes sense.
Yeah, it's great seeing, the mountain music coming to Wisconsin, because we got a lot of people. I mean, we got them Coulee Boys. We got, these guys are like the trifecta of the great Wisconsin music for bluegrass. And I think this isn't the event. It's going to be held at the Driftless Garden area.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Correct.
So you can actually kind of pull up. You can tailgate there, have some brats, listen to some great bluegrass music.
Brew it up.
Yeah, brew it up. Heck, I don't know if they allow beer or whatever, but heck, they make those covers now. Just throw that over your beer. Looks like a mountain brew. And we really enjoy these guys.
Yeah. And so the members of this band are Greg, John, Jordan, Ernest, and Ryan. All of these guys are just phenomenal musicians. And I, as a what I now call a former musician, I still putz around with stuff, but it's just incredible the level of artistry and musicianship they have. So without further ado, we have for you Chicken Wire Empire, Milwaukee.
It's been a long, long road. Though we've made it, I can't believe we're home. Seen the southern skies and the snow-covered plains, and now we're back here in Milwaukee, and it all feels the same. I tried to kiss you and you didn't seem to mind. Thought about that kiss 1,000,000 times. I tried to take you where those southern breeze blows, and that's just how it goes. Back here in Milwaukee, back here in Milwaukee, back here in Milwaukee, back here in Milwaukee. this far. Southern Belle, that old house and farm surely won't sell. I'd be a fool to come back this way. Here I am anyways, back here in Milwaukee, back here in Milwaukee, back here in Milwaukee, back here in Milwaukee. Back here in Milwaukee, back here in Milwaukee. Back here in Milwaukee.
Again, that was Chicken Wire Empire, one of the bluegrass bands from Wisconsin you have to check out. And now on to our next segment, which is the How Many Loco You Add segment. And for those of you just joining us, the How Many Loco You Add segment is just weird Wisconsin news, and we try to guess how many locos you would drink to get to this point. Obviously, 1 can 4 loco, 2 can 8 loco, 3 can 12 loco. Pretty easy math. So I'm going to give it to Eric, and he's going to read this random article about a Wisconsin driver from Cuba City.
Yeah, so a drunk driver from Cuba City crashed into a creek in a cow pasture while fleeing police on Saturday.
Oh.
At about 5:15 p.m. on Saturday, authorities received a report of a truck traveling south on Highway 80 in an erratic manner, crossing the center line multiple times. Cuba City police located the vehicle traveling west on St. Rose Road and attempted to stop it, but it had accelerated quickly and was pursued a short distance before the pursuit was terminated. The truck was located off the road in a creek in a cow pasture. The driver was detained until sheriff's deputy arrived. The deputy observed multiple signs of impairment and eventually arrested the driver for operating while intoxicated and cited him for failing to stop for an emergency vehicle and failure to keep vehicle under control. So
how Wisconsin do you have to be? Like if you crash into a cow pasture or a cornfield, like that is like the most Wisconsin drunk driving I've ever heard, honestly.
Yeah, and so he was driving a Silverado truck, which sustained heavy damage and was removed from the creek by a local towing company. But
so how many locos you add?
Exactly. How many locos this guy drank straight from the udder. I'm telling you right now, the issue that I have here is that he had the wherewithal to decide
to pursue
exactly to flee.
So I don't think it was quite past an 8 loco. So it's definitely for me it's a 2 can loco stage, maybe an 8 loco.
Exactly. I think he probably started that second can. I don't know that he finished it. So I'm thinking somewhere between like a 5, 6, maybe 7 loco at tops. But he's somewhere in that second can when he decides, oh crap, they got me.
Yeah, I mean, how amusing is this one? I mean, I got these freaking cheesy jokes,
dude,
that are just keep coming, dude. I got a ton of them.
Dairy funny.
Yeah. Oh, snap. But yeah, that'll conclude our segment on how many loco you at. And now we're going to do a beer review segment, and you got to check these ones out. We always do Wisconsin beer. We're always drinking. We're always having a few brews, Wisconsin local. Here we go.
All right. So the beer today is Mobcraft Oddball.
Yeah, so the Oddball is a Kolsch-style ale boasting a pale golden color with a refreshing crisp finish. Most of our beers are far cry from normal. This beer simply tastes like beer, making it our Oddball. And this beer is a 45% alcohol. That'll rack you. It's
This
4.
thing will knock you straight off the horse.
This is a 4.5 ABV, and it's best enjoyed at 45 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit. It's really good. It kind of has that, like not necessarily like the Miller style finish, but it's kind of like in that genre. Like it's definitely drinkable. It's at 4.5%. And it's pretty tasty, for somebody just getting in the craft beer, somebody that just drinks that domestic style beer, then that's all they drink. This is like a great transitional beer.
Introductory, for sure.
Yeah, it has like, obviously it's like fine crafted. It has a little bit of that like wheat flavor that you're going to get. That little wheat flavor you're getting from the other beer. It obviously doesn't have the corn like, the cheaper beers do.
Yeah.
But you definitely are getting that wheat flavor.
That's the first thing that I noticed right off the top was the little bit darker of a taste of that wheat. And then it sort of finishes like a little bit of the bitterness, but it's wheat to start, and it's refreshing. And they're right. It definitely would be best served a little bit more on the warmer side. I don't want to say warm, but definitely closer to that 40, 50 degree mark, not 30 like you get out of that refrigerator.
Yeah, and for those that have been to Mobcraft, it's actually downtown Milwaukee. And shout outs to our friends at the Great Lakes Distillery. It's close. I mean, you can walk from Great Lakes to get to Mobcraft, and it's a really cool place. It's kind of industrial. They have great beers. They're always changing. I always see new beers from them all the time. Like if you go to the grocery store, there's always something new from Mobcraft.
Yep.
And they're one of those beers that I recommend checking. I think they used to do it where, if you have a beer idea, they were willing to like look into it and see if it'd be something they'd want to craft, which is really cool.
Yeah, and they also have a few different tap rooms, and then they also do pizza and stuff too. I've had a few friends that have definitely visited this place and said that it is one of their favorites to tour in Milwaukee.
Yeah, and actually they've had a lot of beers that have won beer challenges.
The awards for sure.
Yeah, and one of them was the Hyperspace Double IPA.
Double IPAs can be dangerous, can also be done improperly a lot of times, but this one for sure, you and I have both had this one. Very, very good.
Yeah, they also have the lemon meringue pie milkshake IPA that won. They have the
milkshakes are big right now.
Yeah, and they had the One Love Bunt Cake, which is a rum barrel aged quad, which actually won one of the competitions. They have had a peanut butter candy time. Ice Drum, which is a barrel aged ice bock. They have Adequa. Is that the correct pronunciation of this thing?
I have no idea. This one is actually, I didn't see this one. This was back in maybe February, it says. But this one I have not heard of.
It's a farmhouse ale with cranberry, cranberry is a Wisconsin staple. I bet it's just amazing.
I bet you this thing would taste a little bit like Thanksgiving dinner.
But again, if you're in the stores, pick this one up. This is called Oddball Kolsch-style Ale. And go check out Mobcraft if you're downtown Milwaukee. I recommend it.
It's a must visit. Not only is their food, pretty top notch, but their beer, it excels just like all Wisconsin beers do.
Yeah, and they open it up to let the fresh, Lake Michigan air in. They have these garage doors, industrial, that they lift right up, and you can just go right out there and have a couple brews.
Absolutely. All right, so as promised, we are here with a very special guest interview. We are with Nate Hansen of Hansen Screen Printing. He is probably the biggest Brewer fan I know, and long-time listener, long-time fan. Nate, what are some of your fondest Brewers memories?
So growing up as a kid, my old man used to take me to a lot of games. In the 90s, there wasn't much of a team there, but that's when my love kind of started. Fernando Vina, John Jaha, to name a couple guys, but just County Stadium. I loved County Stadium growing up as a kid. I had a Power Ranger or Ninja Turtle backpack, whatever it was. My old man would throw a few Pabst Blue Ribbons in there, make me go ahead of him in line, and maybe try to get me in there with some beer for him. But
that's awesome.
I got popped a couple times, and the ticket guy said, "Well, where's your dad?" And I turn and look. Well, that's when he turned his back and looked the other way, because he got caught. But they just took the beer, let me in. But that's just growing up as a kid in the 90s with a losing team, just to be at the ballpark, it was great. They used to have players on the field before the games. You can go down there, get your picture with them. Another more recent memories are that first playoff, getting into the playoffs as a wild card, 2008.
2008, yeah.
Just sitting there and watching the big screen to see if you're going to make it, and then the confetti falling. Just that experience of Milwaukee finally being a competitive team.
Now,
after 25 years of not making the playoffs, they were a below 500 team for 15 years, and that was pretty exciting. And then you started seeing some moves, 2011, 2018. Just finally being competitive, and that's I don't know. It's just stuff like that. Big games like that really made a big impact on my fandom and being a part of it too.
Now, you were the game in 2008, the one where the confetti fell and we had what was the CC Sabathia? Was that the one that you and I were both at? And I was on the field level and you were up in the second deck, I think, or was that 2011 when Niger hit that one over?
I believe that was 2011.
Yeah.
It was, just being at those playoff games. My dad has been a season ticket holder, so we get first pick on the playoff games, and 2018 I was at every home game all the way through. As far as the playoffs go, I was at the NLDS, NLCS games. I actually missed only one home game.
Wow.
And that was the Wade Miley.
Oh, sure.
One batter.
Yep.
One batter game where Council had him pitching for one batter, and they pulled him just to screw with the Dodgers.
Yep, I remember that.
Brilliant, but just baseball in general. I'm a big historian. Love the Braves. Love the story of how Milwaukee finally got baseball back. And just Hank Aaron coming back as a Brewer. I think that was huge for the community, just to see their old, one of the old originals from the Braves finally come back home to Milwaukee. After he went to Atlanta when they moved the team, and just to finish his career in Milwaukee, it's huge. You got your '82 Brewers, Harvey's Wallbangers. It's just the history around the whole team. It's awesome. How they became a team. Ripping the patches. I don't know if you guys have talked about it or not, but ripping the patches off the Seattle Pilots jerseys because they needed jerseys right away. And it's fun. I take my kids all the time. I try to take one at a time so we get that bonding experience, just me and one of my kids, and hopefully they'll do the same. But they're all girls, so they're getting to be the age that they don't want to. It's not fun anymore to them. So I either go by myself or.
So Nate, do you get those girls wearing the Leonardo beer mules, as I like to say, the Ninja Turtle backpack beer mules?
No, I nowadays it's a little bit more strict of a policy. I think it gets popped pretty quick. Now they search every bag that you walk in with. If you had a couple walk-in sodas to stick in the bag, if you didn't finish them at the gate, I think that you'd get popped pretty hard. But, just growing up as a kid, being able to live that atmosphere with my dad and his friends and opening days. And, oh, man, there were times where opening day was coming and you knew you were skipping school.
Yeah.
We've been there.
Yep.
And sometimes you'd see a buddy there with his old man, and you'd be like, "Oh, you skipped school too? This is awesome!" Or the rain delays were huge too. It just a rain delay back at County Stadium meant you just hang out, everybody has a good time.
Yep.
You find stuff to do. I've been to National Stadium, a lot of spring training games. Let's see, the old Metrodome, Wrigley, Comiskey, Chase Field in Arizona. I'm just trying to think off the top of my Busch Stadium. That's the biggest thing too for me, is that I want to see him in every stadium. My brother's a Reds fan, so we used to commute down there quite a bit.
Yeah, that's one of the only other ones that I've seen the Brewers play in was the Reds, and I watched
American ballpark. Yeah,
exactly, and they had a 4-game series there, and I went to the Reds Hall of Fame every single day, and they would give you with your ticket like a bobblehead as well.
Yeah, that's where they have all of Pete Rose's base hits. Did you see that in there?
Yeah, up the staircase.
Yep. It's awesome. Just the love of baseball in Milwaukee, being a small town, small market team. At least, it's slowly starting to be mid-market now, but because we have an owner that wants to spend some money. But just to be a small market team in the early 2000s and start to become competitive again, it really helps the state as a whole, I think.
Incredibly, it does. Yeah.
Yeah, I know one of my memories was living in Kansas City with a girlfriend of mine, Crystal, and she was a Royals fan. But we saw the Royals play the Brewers in Kansas City Stadium, and obviously I was the only Brew Crew fan in that stadium.
Yeah.
That's one stadium I'd like to go to too. Just the same. They've got kind of the same atmosphere. It's small market baseball, and there's something you got to appreciate that. You don't have the Yes Network or whatever the stupid Cubs network is now. To where you're not making money off of TV networks, and it's just it might be a salary cap thing, or I don't think that's going to happen. But just to see these small market teams and see what their salary is, and just to see them perform and do well against these Red Sox or Cubs or the Yankees, who have all the money to spend in the world, but it's really fun, and I think it's awesome for the city of Milwaukee and the state.
I agree. Well, I appreciate your time. I know that the Milwaukee Brewers are on hold right now due to St. Louis kind of getting a few COVID tests, and so we're just kind of waiting that out. And I know that Lorenzo Cain has officially backed out of this season due to COVID, and wants to keep his family safe. So we respect that decision as well. But like I said, I appreciate your time, and I really hope that maybe at the tail end of this year or maybe next year we can meet up and tailgate a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, this year it's just so hard to get into it. It's having no fans there. I really honestly see that the writing's on the wall, and this season's gonna stop here within probably a week and a half.
Yeah.
Players are gonna start opting out. That's just a shame. I was looking so forward to this season. Every year, come January, February, I'm starting to get that itch, and it was just a shame that it happened like this. And hopefully next year we have some baseball to go to and to watch, and we're competitive, and we win some games, win the division. So,
but thanks again, Nate. Yeah, thanks, Nate. And we'll have the brats unthawed, as we like to say here in Wisconsin, and we'll have the beers cold.
Yeah, and you know what? We'll do an episode right from the parking lot too.
Yeah, definitely. And thanks for clearing up the information. I was wondering about the Leonardo backpack beer muling.
Yeah, I think it happened a lot more than it didn't back in the early 90s. And I think the ushers might have turned a blind eye to it.
Absolutely.
But there was also only about 10,000 fans in the stands too, so they didn't really care as long as
they were there.
You know, they're spending a little money on a couple hot dogs and some licorice ropes, and it's all good.
All right, Nate, you take it easy.
Yep, take care.
All right, bye. All right, that concludes this episode of Wisconsin Drunken History Podcast.
If you enjoyed this vulgar display of Wisconsin, we recommend you subscribe via SoundCloud, Apple Podcast, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn.
Also, leave us a review on any one of those above-mentioned sites, and we can read one at the end of every show. Follow us on social media, and feel free to reach out, especially if there is a piece of history or weird news you'd love us to share or research, as well as highlight some local artists or music. Our website is projectcapestudio.com.
I'd also like to thank my friend and past coworker, Steph Skiback, for providing us with awesome podcast cover art, as well as the Dangits for intro and outro music, and all of you for listening. As always,
Watch out for deer on the way home.